Telstra and its 1.4 million shareholders are under pressure and stuck at an anxious crossroads pending the outcome of this election. If Labor wins, Australia's sixth biggest company and its biggest telco by far will effectively get an $11 billion cheque to hand over its wholesale operations to a new national broadband network and separate the wholesale and retail operations that have given Telstra such a big advantage over other telecommunications retailers. If the coalition wins, Telstra will face a degree of new competition, but will basically sail merrily on its way as the $55 billion leviathan of the Australian telecommunications sector. But with great uncertainty swirling about their investment, Telstra shareholders are angry to find themselves in such a predicament and unsure whether, with the share price in decline, they should sell or buy. Business editor Greg Hoy reports.
Let me just move you forward. Are you there, Kieran?
What will tomorrow bring for Telstra? Chief Executive David Thodey says it may mean hologram phone calls, beamed long distance by broadband, already under trial.
You could envisage this in education, in entertainment, in news media, as a holographic system, but the whole class of telepresence is going to be across all businesses.
Then there's the broadband-connected telephone hub, already on sale.
The home screen provides everything you need right at your fingertips.
As is the broadband-connected television or T-box. But overshadowing the future is the past, given Telstra's 1.4 million shareholders who invested up to $7.40 per share are now lucky to get $3 for them, amidst falling fixed-line revenues and profit downgrades.
Well, I think Telstra shareholders are angry in many respects. I find it difficult to see that at the moment Telstra can be something which you would invest in with great confidence.
Because in fast-changing technology, you never know who's going to dominate and what technology is going to win.
We see some potential for revenue growth, but at a cost, so that the net effect is that we see a margin decline. Maybe they can lift it for a year or two, but the long-term trend is for that margin to erode, perhaps at a steady rate.
The former monopoly telco was sold off to Australians by the then government in the late 90s as a golden opportunity to invest in a national icon. But to get the highest price, opposition calls that Telstra be first split into separate wholesale and retail companies to encourage greater competition were ignored.
An extremely good deal for those who get involved. And it's a marvellous opportunity for more of the mums and dads of Australia to buy shares in this great enterprise.
Inevitably, Telstra's treatment of rivals needing access to its wholesale network has led to repeated fines and friction with the regulator, the ACCC.
What we're asking the government to do is to rein in a rogue regulator.
I'll leave aside sort of any discussion about expressions of rogue regulator. I think I've also been described by Dr. Burgess as a car bomber.
Anti-competitive tension that impeded the rollout of truly high-speed broadband in Australia. Which brings us to the great crossroads of this election. If Labor wins, Telstra will get $11 billion to surrender its wholesale infrastructure arm into a new fibre optic network with equal access for all telcos. The NBN, built at great expense, half owned by government, fully privatised, we're told, after 10 years. The good news is some of that cash might be returned to shareholders. The bad news? That high profits from sharing the old copper fixed line network will vanish, though mobiles have eroded a third of those profits anyway. Regardless, losing its wholesale arm would finally force Telstra to compete on a level playing field. But will Labor's $11 billion carrot be enough of a sweetener for shareholders?
You've got the ACCC that's got to approve the deal. You've got the shareholders to weigh it up and vote for it early next year. But assuming those things go well, then that cash flow, that certainty of cash flow is attractive.
Well, I think the board and the management of Telstra are accountable to a large extent for the way in which they've both managed the business and conducted their relationship with government and with the ACCC. I think the government has been sort of arrogant in, I believe, trying to punish Telstra for the positions it's taken.
Alternatively, there's the opposition's far cheaper broadband option that will use lesser technologies but build some optical fibre to encourage some competition, basically retaining Telstra's wholesale control over retail rivals. Though shareholders are confused as to how they would fare.
I think that what the opposition has put forward is more for political purposes rather than for the financial benefit of Telstra or Telstra shareholders.
Why do you say that?
Well, I think it's an on-the-run decision. I don't think that there's any detail there that would help anyone to believe that Telstra is going to be in any way different if the opposition wins the election.
But like everyone else, market analysts are divided on the need for a top-of-the-line, fixed fibre optic broadband solution.
I'm definitely a pessimist on the NBN. When we see what's happening with the fixed line market that 5 or 6 years ago was generating $8 billion in traditional telephone revenue, now that's fallen 30%, and that trend is going to continue. There's a smaller and smaller base of telecoms revenue. The internet's got to carry a bigger and bigger load. So how is it going to do that, not just on the existing network, copper wire network, how can it possibly do that on a $43 billion fibre network? It just begs belief.
Look, the country needs a broadband network, there's no doubt, much as it needs roads to go around the country. If we're going to maintain our competitiveness globally over time, we're not doing it in manufacturing. We're going to have to do it once the resources run out. We're going to have to do it in the service industry, and that's going to require fantastic communication. So we're going to need it. Now you could delay the rollout because the focus right now seems to be on the expense of it. Because with inflation, it's only going to get more expensive.
Its future uncertain. Telstra and its shareholders are the ham in this sandwich. In recently downgrading its profit forecast, Telstra has said it will invest heavily in new revenue streams and ramp up its migration to mobile services. But sceptics abound.
So at the end of the day, do people buy or sell?
At this stage, well, it's a very good question. Do they buy or do they sell? We just don't see that this strategy's got enough definition to it to support the long-term growth outlook. I think we need to wait and see what the NBN offers, and what part of that comes back to Telstra shareholders. So we're sitting with a hold call at the moment until we get that definition.
I think that a lot of shareholders would prefer to be elsewhere.
10 years ago, intrinsic value was $4, but the price was $9. Today, the intrinsic value is closer to $3, and that's about where the price is. So the market eventually gets it right. It's not compelling value right now, but it's not expensive either, finally.
Business Editor Greg Hoy.